Hello, 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 Derek. How are you?
I'm good yourself.
Very, very good, thank you. And hello, chat. Send me a hi if there's anybody out there. I don't know if there's anybody out there. We could just be talking to each other, but it won't be the first time we've done that, so that's totally fine.
But usually it's over a beer instead of a nice cup of tea, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm drinking. I'm drinking a Coke today. I'll be honest. It's
Nah.
so hot here. How's the weather in London at the moment?
It's pretty warm outside, but I've been inside and have had a bit breeze through the place, so it's not too bad at the moment. Um,
Well, that's good
but
news.
yeah, it's alright.
Nice weather for strolling around the park or being on the beach, all those things that we can't actually do in the current climate, right?
Yeah, it's pretty rubbish, but so it goes. Not much you can do about it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we met. God, it's got to be a few years ago right now, right? It's got to be quite a long time ago that we met. I think it was a ZenCon, if I remember correctly. I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
Are you asking me
I'm
to
asking
remember
you.
these
Yeah,
things?
I'm asking you. Yeah, I'm asking
Because
for
I
your
have
opinions.
I have absolutely no idea when
I'm
that
the
was either.
I'm there. You scared me. I was waiting for the stream to be beginning. Yeah, sorry, I didn't have any background music. That's my bad. Yeah, I think we met.
Ah,
I think we met at ZenCon. My favorite story about that ZenCon was that was the time where I offended you by calling you a German. That
oh
was
yeah.
at that ZenCon. But also, that was the first ever talk I'd ever given was at that ZenCon in.
Hmm.
I'd like to say Santa Clara,
Probably, yeah.
and
Unless it was in Vegas, because I've never been there. No, it must have been Santa
I
Clara.
think it
Yeah.
was when it was when the conference was held in a hotel in Santa Clara, I remember, and the conference center was right next door. Sounds about right,
Mm.
anyway.
Yeah.
And uh, I was giving my first ever talk, and as I went like 10 minutes before my talk to actually go into the room, you were just finishing up on your talk, and there was like
Mm.
standing room only, people down the aisles. Honestly, there were people standing on the aisles. There were people sitting on the aisles in the middle of the talk, and I had to like walk up to the front of the room, and you were answering questions, and I was like, "Oh, hi, Derek. You know." And you, oh yes, have you got a question? I was like, no, I'm the next speaker, and I need you to move out so I can get set up.
Hey, it's perfectly okay.
And you walked out, and everyone just flooded out like out here, and there was just an empty room while I set up. But thankfully, a few people did actually come and hang out, and it wasn't the end of the world. So yeah,
Mhm.
I remember that was the first time I met you. That's a number of years ago, and I wouldn't like to guess how many at this point. I'll be honest.
A lot fewer grey hairs in our beards.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. So yeah, I guess today I'd love to find out if there's anything. I've been keeping a little bit up to date with what's going on
Mm.
in the RFC world for PHP 8, but really I haven't got a clue what's cool and fun and interesting that's
Mhm.
been agreed on, been voted in, or is at vote. So I thought we could start out by going through some of that stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, might be aware of I do a podcast about this, and where I talk to um, the authors of the RFCs and the people that actually work on PHP. And yeah, so I get to talk to all those people, which is kind of nice. So interestingly, there are a few big things that I would like to talk about and show. However, two out of the three big things that I put on my list actually haven't been merged yet. So that we can talk about them, I can't
Yeah.
show them to you.
That's okay. We can talk about it. Let me paste a link to your podcast in chat for all of the fine people who would like to. Uh,
Mm.
would like to.
No, that's the wrong link.
Okay, okay. Hang on then. Hang on then. Right. Let's see. Where will I find? You can direct me.
It's https
Yeah.
slash slash.
Yeah. There's a colon. Yeah. Between the. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, forgot the colon.
Yeah.
PHP internals, one word, lowercase, dot news.
Okay. There you go. Awesome. Awesome. There you go. I'll whack that in chat so people who would like
Okay.
to follow your podcast. There you go.
Oh, yeah,
Amazing.
looks like you spelled it right. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So
Mhm.
what have you got? What have you got for us? What's exciting? What's new? What's
Well,
interesting?
I think the big types is union types. So if you could share my screen, that'd be
I
great.
can certainly do that. There we go. We're all prepared.
Is this big enough?
Yes,
Let me know if
perfect.
it's not. I can make it bigger. All right. So union types is the first one. Let me. I haven't prepared any examples.
It's fine. This is the nature of streaming. Let's just see what it is.
Union types.
So are you running a build of PHP that is like PHP 8-ish?
Yeah, that version of PHP 8 compiled early this morning.
Awesome.
So we have functions, right? Where you say say number, and where we have, for example, floating point number, not a flat floating point number, says pi, and then
That's what you get for using a 1980s text editor. I got no sympathy.
Sorry, there's no difference between making typos in the 90s editor than in the 2020s. Typos are going to be made anyway.
That's fine.
And of course, when you then say, for example, 5, does this work? Let's find out. So we run PHP union types. Of course, that is an interesting one. Always happens. So what I actually have, I have so many PHP versions.
I can only imagine, yeah. So if you didn't know, Derek is an internal...
See, that's so many, you can't see them.
Derek's an internals
this many.
and author of Xdebug, which you probably will have heard of, and also author of the Datetime stuff, I believe, that is in internals. So it's not surprising you have so many versions of PHP installed, well, let's be honest.
They're more than fit on the screen, as you can see here.
Yeah, that's pretty
good.
So
I have this little shell script where I can switch between them. And then it will tell me here in my status bar which version I'm using, which version of Xdebug I'm using, and so on and so on.
Awesome.
And all these things in here tell me the 64 says it's 64-bit and stuff like that. And if I switch it to 32-bit, I get a 32-bit version and stuff like that. But those are all kind of debugging flags that I use for when developing the PHP extension. In any case, what do we have here? We have the union types. Remember?
We have, yep, union types. Oh, hang on, let me get rid of the bottom bar here. 'Tis all good. Boop, there we go.
All right. Then when I type this, you get 5. I mean, that's not unexpected, is it?
I forget what the... So this... Oh, yeah, so you say you're just echoing out what the number was. Right, and that int is getting cast to a float because you don't have strict types on, right?
Right. So, well, this is, of course, the exception. I don't know what the syntax for this is.
Yep, you got it. Underscore types equals 1. Yep.
It still works because it's supposed to work. I mean, this is not a surprise. However, if you do this, then it doesn't work. You get a type error. And you get a few more here because I'm running Xdebug, and you get a lovely call trace.
You do, which is what Xdebug gives you. Yeah, awesome.
Yep. So what you can now do in PHP 8, because in some cases... Yeah,
hang on, sorry. So if you pass a integer to a strict type declaration of a float, you don't get a type error.
No, you don't. It gets... If it fits in the data types, it will get converted between floats and ints as long as you don't get any data loss.
Is that because an int is a subset of a float, essentially? Or a float is whatever. You understand what I'm trying to say there, right? It's because you can losslessly convert it, and it's safe to do that type conversion, right?
So if you have a 64-bit integer, you can losslessly convert it to a floating point number as long as it isn't higher than 2 to the 52nd or something.
Okay. So I never knew that, that's all, and I love to learn these things, because I honestly thought you'd get a type error. But that's, nope. It makes sense that you don't, because that is a safe type conversion. So, whereas obviously converting a string to an int is never a safe type conversion. So
right. Although in this case, you can argue that. Well, let me switch this to an int, right? Doesn't particularly matter. I mean, you can argue that because so many things come in through like get and post parameters or from databases that get a string out anyway. So this isn't such a weird thing. I mean, if in a conversion we do, for example, get the number and do it times 5, then if it would be in a string, PHP would auto-convert it to a number here anyway when you do the multiplication.
Yeah.
Of course, in strict type, this doesn't work. If you run this, then you get the error, right? That makes sense.
Which is why I love strict type so much, yeah.
Yes, but in some cases, you don't actually care very much, and PHP 8 will allow you to do this.
Yeah, I think this is good in some regards and not good in other regards.
Yes, exactly.
And that's fine, right? It's about choosing to use these tools in the correct situation. I'm not going to decry it because...
It makes sometimes sense to do it with interfaces, for example, or when you have two classes that two classes that you know implement the same methods, but aren't, for some reason, can't implement an interface, which it ought to do, really. And of course, you can't have like multiple inheritance and stuff like that. So there, it makes some sort of sense.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll talk about after. I think it's a useful tool in the arsenal of people, particularly who are working in legacy code bases. Let's say that you want to start implementing some stricter type declarations, but you're working on a legacy code base. Like before this union type, it was all or nothing, right? It was like, oh, I can either say this accepts an integer or a class of this type, or I can't, because... Yeah. And now you can at least make some strides towards putting type declarations in place, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And this builds up on top of some other things as well. So there's a new stringable interface, which I don't know exactly how to explain because it wasn't useful enough for me to dive too deep into it. But a stringable interface can be used when an object can be converted to a string by implementing an underscore to string function. So what you can't do in, for example, if you do string here number, then so let's create a class. Gary class.
Woohoo!
You get your own class today, Gary.
Yeah, I'm happy.
And it implements to string. So let's do this correctly. And that we return smaller. So
yeah,
logically doing this. Logically, this makes perfect sense, right? Sorry, let's not multiply.
I was going to say, yeah, the multiplication might be a little bit ropey, but I've learned something else. You can use a comma in Echo. Like, this is how noob I am.
That is the best thing ever, because using a comma, you don't get weird conversions. So if you have, for example, it's like something like this, right?
Yeah.
What is that output?
I have no clue at this point. My gut says it would be stringlen space 7-4.
Yeah,
or
but
will
it doesn't.
No, it'll do the addition, right? No, it'll do the addition.
Yeah.
So it'll say stringlen space 11.
Yeah, no, it outputs 4.
Oh. Okay. And that is
because PHP operates from left to right here. So the stringlen, strlen concatenated with 7, which is still a string, and then it adds 4 to a string, but the string evaluates to 0. So you get 4 out of it.
4, of course, yeah, of course. And this is why types are bad, kids. Yeah.
And this is why you use the comma, you never have that problem.
Because... So what does the comma concatenates it, but...
No, it doesn't concatenate it. It issues different echo statements for each of the parts.
So essentially you're echoing two things out. They're parsed separately. Okay, yeah, that's... Yes. See, I mean, that's something... I genuinely have been doing this for over 20 years, and I never knew you could do that.
You can't do it with print, though, only with echo.
Yeah, I don't use print very often, so yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Hi, Brunty! How are you doing?
So PHP 8, however, will actually throw a warning for you. So let me see if I can run this. It might bail out for all the reasons now, but...
Oh yeah.
This way. So you now get SGLN 11 Gary. Sorry, I should add an extra new line there to make this more obvious. Then you get SGLN 11 and then Gary, because that's what you'd expect it to do.
Yeah, that's really cool, though. I have to say that. I'm
So
a big fan. No, I'm a big fan of this. I gotta say, I'm a big fan. So we've covered the union types, and I can see a few people have come in a little bit later. So just to clarify, we covered union types already, which are where you can use the pipe operator to have multiple types in a type declaration, and that works, I guess, in properties of methods or functions.
Yeah, it works in arguments, property types, and return types.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, to show the sample I'm just showing with PHP 7.4, you get something like this. You get a deprecation warning already. Then PHP 8 will actually change the behavior.
The deprecation, the behavior. Sorry, I can only see Derek's screen here. So if I'm looking weirdly, I'm not going to change it. A non-numeric value encountered in union types on line 6. Okay, yeah.
So if you look at this, right, in PHP 7.4, this will now throw a warning. Because before 7.4, it will just show you 4, which is not handy.
Yeah.
Now it shows in PHP 8, it will not show you the warning anymore, and we change the precedence order. So it will do the addition before the concatenation. And that's really what you expect to do. Anyway.
That's a break and change though, right? Sorry, yeah, let's not get any more distracted. Let's not get any more distracted. It's fine.
That is absolutely a breaking change. But when Nikita had a look at the top 1,000 most popular projects on GitHub, he found out like a dozen or so locations where this would actually change behavior. But in all of these cases, it was a bug.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
in that case, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I'm a believer in that. That's totally fine. So we were looking at the stringable stuff. Let me just quickly show the RFC on my screen here while you boop 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 boop. So yeah, I think this is the correct RFC, right? No, that's 2020, 15th to the 1st.
Yep, that
looks right. So to allow the stringable union type in PHP 8. Okay, so this goes hand in hand with that. So let's see how this works.
Okay, I've reverted my example back to get rid of the STL. So what I have here is I have a function called say. It's going to say, not a number, but whatever. Going to say something.
Yeah.
I'm terrible naming variables. Maybe you should use the underscore instead. And don't have to keep changing it to mean something else.
I don't advocate using... code. No, I do not advocate using underscore as a variable name either. But that's totally fine. So we got a new class that implements toString and returns hello, and that class is a cool name. Love it.
Right, but of course, if we have type hint argument to say with string, and if you now run this, you'll get an error because it needs to be of type string. So
the bug, or not bug, but the missing piece of the parcel here is the fact that the string, even though the class Gary can be converted to a string, and so is stringable, is string-like. It doesn't type into a string.
Correct.
Yeah.
If we do this,
we still get an error. Work. Is that because you're running the wrong version of PHP? Didn't you just roll back, or did you?
That's a good question.
PHP 7.4 still, yeah, I thought so.
Frank,
Brunty recognized it. That's what you get for having 9,000 versions of PHP installed on your computer. Yeah.
Okay, so stringable. Let me see whether it runs now. And it says hello. So
that's very useful, I guess.
And of course, combined with union types, you can do this as well.
Oh, does a string not?
Well,
I see.
Let's find out whether we can do that.
Yeah, welcome to the stream, Cariso Gabriel. And yes, Derek has 9,000 versions of PHP installed on his machine.
It's about 180.
It's about 180, okay. I may have been exaggerating slightly.
So, to go back to the stringable, if we say a string, then it doesn't work, because it needs to be stringable.
So that's interesting. So a string is not stringable.
Right.
Which is, I guess, not an issue now that we have union types, right? Because you can just say a string or a stringable, but yeah.
Another interesting thing is that, switch those around. Switch the Gary around with hi. So I've now changed it to not return a return type. That works. It said, oh, sorry, did you see that? It said the hello first.
Yeah, it says hello,
So that
even though, yeah, but because it can infer that it's a string that's being returned even without the return type, right?
Yeah, and that is actually not what you normally do in PHP. But it is possible to do here because the stringable interface is special.
So, but toString always has to return a string anyway, right? So this kind of inferred in the engine. I don't know what the words are here, and I will make a fool of myself talking internals, but that's completely normal, as you know. But PHP can infer the fact that toString, it knows that toString should return a string, right? You don't really need to say that. Yeah.
So yeah, this is a sort of a hack done in the internals to make sure that stringables actually shows up as stringable.
Yeah.
Okay, now I've changed it to both, and then it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. And welcome back. Hi, Icon has string. We are talking strings, so that's good. Yeah.
I prefer cheeseburgers.
Yeah. String.
Icon has cheeseburger. No?
String.
Yeah,
Icon has cheeseburger. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, this is interesting. So this isn't a break-in change, I would guess, because it introduces a new interface, which isn't really, I guess, I mean, it's not really an interface, right?
Yeah, it is an interface.
But it's an inferred interface because you're not implementing it in the class. So it's It's just like magic under the hood stuff saying this is stringable because it implements toString.
This doesn't stop you from working, right?
Let's see.
It works just fine. But if you now remove this one,
yeah, it's
that
fine.
also works. So it's no problem.
You can be as verbose or as non-verbose as you want, I guess. So that's fine. That's totally fine.
So yeah, that's union types and stringables, which is what we have added to the type system. Now, something else that we have new is actually kind of neat, but is what I really would like is the class strict types to be there by default, but we can't have everything.
No, though I think a lot of people would like that, and a lot of people would hate it, and there would be another PHP civil war. And yeah, I haven't got the energy at these trying times to live through that.
Okay, so often a common thing is that if you have like value objects, so we have the class Gary. So we do construct. We want to record how old. Actually, let's do this. Not calling the class Gary.
Let's do a person, yes.
Yeah, so we have string name, int age, string location, and string favorite better. Now, if we want to put this in a class and also do the have the property types, making them private properties, so you need to do this out private string name. Private.
This is why you use PHP Storm to do it for you, right?
Well, sure, you can do that, but you still get the overhead of.
Painful. I agree. Hi, Kobayawaka. Welcome to the stream.
And then not only that, you need to do this.
Yeah. Don't you like boilerplate, Derek? You don't seem to be a fan.
Oh no. This name is name. This. You see how fucking tired. Sorry, no swearing.
You can say that. That's fine. You're allowed. This is absolutely one of those times where it's valuable, right?
I am done liking PHP.
This is why I've ended up. I'm gonna like having seen you embracing the snake case there. I'm not bowing to convention. I'm going to admit that this is why I started using value objects that just have public properties and just property type, property type declared public properties, because this boilerplate, I'm not 45, by the way. Let's just make that point clear. Number one, but I am old enough to not want to have to type this boilerplate every time I write code. I'm 42 actually, but you know that's fine. That's okay.
That seems important. Right. So this is a pain in the bum to have to do every time.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. So with PHP 8, it will allow you to do that once it gets merged. It's been accepted as a feature. No, that's not true. It's currently going through vote, but it would surprise me if it doesn't get accepted.
Do we know what the RFC? Let's see if I can pull it up on my.
It's called Constructor Property Promotion.
You should be able to see my screen now. What? Beep.
I can't, but
oh
yeah, there we go.
So yeah, the definition of simple object requires a lot of boilerplate. Yes, it does. So the proposal is when a method parameter is prefixed by one of the visibility keywords, public, protected, or private, it's considered to be promoted. So look, I'm not going to read all of the details here. I'm just going to go straight to the code and try and work it out from the code, which is completely normal. Okay, so if we so I can use these keywords, right, to say private, and then the properties will automatically be created and made visible for me. So how would that look in your code there if we...
All right, so we have this. Let me just rewrite it to PHP 8 code.
Yeah, I love it.
I will delete those 5 lines. I will delete those 4 lines. And...
you just add the keywords in, right? Now...
that's it.
Now, this is a definite win. Part of me likes the fact that when I look in a class, I can see the properties immediately declared, but I guess you'll get used to it. This is me being a fuddy-duddy rather than anything else.
Well, the argument against that is, of course, that your constructor should be the first function.
No, and I like it. And you'll get used to this syntax quite quickly, and it'll just take over the current syntax. I love it. Yeah, I'm a big fan. What does chat think? How many people in chat are using this kind of syntax on a day-to-day basis? A lot of people, I would imagine. Like, awesome. Like it. Yeah, I think so too. Not sure what I think, but less code, so cool. I agree. I'd use it, says Carosa Gabriel. Nice. Yeah, I think it is too. I think it's something that... it's like one of those things where you introduce the short array syntax, and everyone's like, "Yeah, it's only going to get rid," and then like everybody just uses the short array syntax, right?
In one of my projects, I can't use it yet because we still need to support PHP 5.3, which makes me very sad. It
should make you very sad. Usually use name constructors though, but this is cool. Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem, but you know that's fine. Assuming you can do additional logic in the constructor still if needed. I guess so. Your constructor can still be a constructor. Like, you're just getting rid of the boilerplate. Yeah.
Yeah. You can also do the assignments yourself if you want to.
In this case, the constructor has no body. Yeah, but I guess... how many constructors have you seen in library code or in your own code base where the body is literally this name equals $name, this age... like, the body is... I don't know, in 90% I'm making stats up, as I always do. But
what people sometimes do, of course, is do extra checking on values, right? So, if, for example, if h is smaller than 0, or smaller than 0, then...
throw an exception or whatever, yeah.
Throw. That's not how you spell that either. Because
it's okay. Who cares?
But that doesn't.
Can you replace? No, it still needs to pass.
It needs to be there. Yeah. It needs to have it there. So yeah.
But I mean, yes, and I guess you could still do that using this syntax, right? Because you'd still get the exception.
Yep. Now, if you have like say an ORM where you have to make sure that your value objects are correct, then it is actually possible to, with PHP 8, to not having to implement that in your constructor. But what you can do is you can actually set up attributes. Now this has also not been merged yet, but it has been accepted.
So before we move on, let's really
Yeah.
quickly see what the state of the constructor property promotion is. I'm interested just to see.
Oh,
Like,
there's
is that
no.
that's in the discussion phase at the moment? Is
No,
it?
no. It's in voting phase. Scroll all the way to the bottom.
Let's see. Oh, let's see. Let's name and shame those people who don't want this. James wants it. That's good. Yeah. Derek doesn't want it. Apparently, not a fan.
Derek. That's
not a fan.
That's not. It's not me.
Yeah, I knew. Dragonis doesn't want it. Oh, I'll be speaking to Paul later when we're playing games. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna pass though, right? 46-10. Awesome.
Yeah. Can you? I can see it on the screen, but I can't see it until when the voting runs. It's just above the table.
Okay. Today, I think.
Tomorrow.
No, tomorrow. That should pass.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that passes. Yeah.
Awesome. And what was the other one you wanted to talk about? We can take a quick look.
What was that again? What did I say?
Yeah.
Oh, attributes.
Is that under discussion or is it?
Nope. It's waiting for implementation. Just search for attributes.
Attributes v2.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There will be a follow-up changes to this because there are some things that need to be tweaked. But this works like this. You can set attributes on things here, as you can see here.
Okay, you code it, because I always find it easier when you actually freaking tell me what we're doing rather than read it.
Now, I don't exactly know how that is going to work with property types like this, so I'm going back to what it originally was. For now, I'm pretty sure that it is possible to do something with. But, for example, to illustrate what we can do here is we can get constraint on this. Constraint. And then you say constraint positive. This doesn't look like code, and my Vim syntax highlighting clearly doesn't understand it yet.
Yeah.
But what you can do, this is then something that can be checked later through reflection. You can look at all the arguments to make them sure and do your own validation to make sure that the data has been passed in is actually correct. So you get... Yeah.
So this is like a weird combination between annotations and type checking.
Well,
I'm confused here. I'm confused. I'll be perfectly honest. Like,
it is annotations, but supported in syntax. So what you used to have done is this. Oh, if I'm not.
Yes.
However, this doesn't mean anything in syntax. PHP doesn't parse this.
No.
There's nothing supported in the language that does anything with this. But the attributes are passed. And you can then also attach functionality to these things separately from your class definition, without having to parse anything and so on and so on. Basically, what you should expect these things to do are basically like a constructor arguments with arguments. So you can, for example, say, well, it must at least be 18, for example. So you can get those arguments as well.
And then I implement constraint positive somewhere as a what? As a class?
As a class, yeah. You don't have to, but you can. If you do, and now I don't remember the syntax. I just don't remember because I've never actually had
to. Somewhere here, I guess, right? Sorry, we couldn't get. So just behind the scenes, we couldn't get Derek's browser and his 1980s text editor to show in on the same screen. So I'm doing the browsing and Derek's doing the typing. So that's how it works.
You're a bit too far now.
Okay. Here, right?
So no, that's for PHP attribute. That's a different one. So yeah, attributes name. It says so a little bit further. Resolve to classes. So you can create a.
Oh, were you looking at that? Sorry. This is.
I was, but it's a bit small, and I don't exactly know where in the RFC it is. So, yeah, here we're setting the attribute. However, the attribute types that I have constraint positive also evaluates to a class.
So we don't know
So
exactly what
if you scroll down a bit further.
Attribute names resolved to classes. There we go.
So if I would be in a namespace, it would be in that namespace as well.
Yeah. And then
then how you use this is by this. So you have the PHP attribute here.
Yeah.
That might get changed to attribute.
Yeah.
So that syntax isn't certain. When you do that, then the constructor public. Don't scroll away.
Oh, sorry.
I'm copying and pasting here.
This is hard. It's okay. It's okay. We can work this. It's fine.
Min, for example.
I could hear you
and
typing.
Of course, what I want to do with this, I want to do a PHP 8 way of doing this, and then have that function right, and then you get to check this.
Tell me when you're...
Yeah, I'm ready. Then when you run reflection on the person class's age property, you can get this constraint then and do your checking with it.
And so that would throw an exception if the age was less than whatever, right?
That's how you could implement it, yes. That's not what it does now, but yeah, you absolutely can do that.
Or because essentially you're going to get the data you need to make whatever comparisons to validate data you need at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that happens when? At runtime? It must happen at runtime.
No, it doesn't do anything automatically, but what you can do for this constraint, of course, is valid.
Yeah, I
mean... then it can then return...
But I mean, when... So you've put constraint positive there down in the class person as 18 and you've above the private int. So that constraint positive applies to what's underneath it like an annotation does. So when I attempt to modify the property age, I'm going to create a new constraint positive object and pass in 18 because we've told it that in the annotation.
Yeah, but you don't have to do this yourself. This is a definition of an object that gets returned when you call reflection. I'll see what I can.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We can do this again. So the question in chat
I'm
is,
happy to do this. Yeah.
What's the point of doing that checks with attribute versus normally in code? And I'm guessing as Icon has string says it's reuse. It's not having to rewrite the same validation code constantly.
It is more of a PHP syntax supported way of doing annotations.
Yeah.
In doc block comments, which mean nothing pretty much
and
to the language itself.
This is a nice sort of thin end of the wedge implementation for us as well, right? Because I can see this becoming more fully formed and replacing annotations that we're using in userland currently over time.
For example, this.
Yeah.
And this could potentially have a implementation in the PHP engine that if you access this property, it will show you the application warning. I mean, that isn't done yet, but that is something that could have done. Or something that has been proposed is doing... that makes no sense on the property, but it makes sense on a function, right? Then this function will never get jitted, for example.
Yeah, and you could see over time a lot of the things that are being used in, like, let's be honest, right? Since PHP 7 and PHP 7 3 and 4, annotations have largely gone away for at value, at returns, because we've got types that we can actually put in the code, and this is almost like the next logical step of removing stuff from code document and putting it into actual parsing code. And I like it. I really do. Yeah. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a whole lot more things in PHP 8, of course, but I want to have a quick look at Xdebug as well.
Of course.
Now, of course, I don't remember the name of the branch because I have too many of them.
So, yeah, we'll take a look at... obviously, once PHP 8 is in a release candidate, we'll have a stream where we take a look at it. Maybe we'll get Derek back on, or I'll just do it myself or whatever. But we'll definitely take a look at the new stuff because I'm super excited about this stuff.
Yeah, there's so much more in it. So I found the name of my brand.
It's okay. You go. Yeah. So did I fix my PHP Storm problem? I didn't know, Manu. I didn't. I just reset everything back to the way it was, and now I'm not going to restart PHP Storm for as long as I possibly can again. It's just like the way I'm working at the moment, so it's fine. You take your time. I'll go through chat. So Doctrine will be much more friendly to use. I mean, yeah, something like Doctrine that's essentially an annotations parser will, will be much more easy to use. I'm a big fan of moving stuff from no, I wouldn't say that. I'm in certain situations. I'm a big fan of moving stuff from userland implementation into formally adopted stuff, but it has to be the right thing for the job if it's widely adopted enough. And let's be honest, everybody, the fact that everybody was adding @returns and then a type to their doc blocks was kind of proof for me that we needed a return type declaration in PHP 7. So,
and there's also the reason why PHP 8 will get a mixed type, because some return types or arguments aren't you can't really type into anything else, so we get something else in there. So one thing
hi James. Crap. Okay, I can share your screen.
Yep, let me just scroll down quickly to where we were.
Oh, hey, Juice! It's fine.
Yeah, sorry. I just clicked away. Well, not clicked away because I don't use a mouse, but...
Brunty says there's a good blog post on Stitcher.io, attributes in PHP 8. I'll definitely take a read of that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I've, in the same time, just to get back to Xdebug bit, because it was in the description as well. I want to talk a little bit about that as well. So what I've been working on the last month or so is to change the way how you enable things in Xdebug. Because previously, in Xdebug 2 and earlier, you would be able to turn on the profiler and the step debugger and the code covert all at the same time, even though that makes no sense whatsoever, of course, because you're never going to run code covert and profiling at the same time, or code covert and debugging at the same time. That just makes no sense to, and you just end up wasting resources. So I've changed this all around so that you now have to put Xdebug in a specific mode. So there can be the debug or coverage or profile. And if you do that, it wouldn't do any of the additional work that it would need to do for all the other modes that Xdebug has. So that should improve performance quite a bit, but also make it a lot easier to use. I'm sort of on the way of getting rid of as many configuration settings as I can get away with.
Okay.
Which is good. Which I like.
Awesome, yeah. So
I'm not sure what I really can... Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just interested in how you would trigger that then. So how... Because currently, right, what I would typically do is I would do an xdebug dot profiler in it, and profile underscore enable equals 1, whatever. I don't know if the syntax is right, it's close, right? But I would do that globally in my xdebug.ini, maybe my additional config file, or it might just in my php.ini.
Yeah, you do something like this, right?
Okay. So
you do it correctly, you do it like this.
So you should be doing it like that already, right?
You want to turn off all the other things.
So now, though, when I turn the profiler on, the coverage and the step debugging is turned off by default.
Yeah, you do it like this. Is profile. That would do exactly the same thing.
Oh, awesome. Because I guess trying to encourage people not to run Xdebug constantly in their development environment is probably sensible.
And also do off.
Is sensible, is it? You shouldn't be running Xdebug constantly in your dev environment? I mean, I do. I don't know. I've never really thought about it.
The intention is that with this you can.
Yeah. Because, like, on my screen here, I've got Xdebug running, and I'm running it, and it's just got everything I need turned on. I think it's only got step debugging on because I'm not using profiling or code coverage. But that's a bad thing, then, you would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially the coverage one, that takes up quite a bit of additional overhead.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's one thing I've been working on. The other thing is that you'd be able to start it on a command line instead of having to do export
Yeah, okay.
blah blah blah. You can do it like this, and it won't care about any of the other stuff anymore. The IDE key thing is going away likely.
Yeah.
And it's going to be replaced by something totally else, which with some luck I will be able to show you. So I'm going to go away.
Is that going to be a break-in change? Or are you going to keep supporting the IDE key in the interim?
The IDE key is going, likely. It's just going to be renamed by something else.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not 100% certain yet what I'm doing there.
I made an alias to disable XDebug when working with Docker / Vagrant because the remote connection will pass through 3 IDs, which takes some time to be done with a request. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass with virtual machines or containers, that's for sure. I mean...
Yep, and that is exactly what I was about to show, that you don't have to do this anymore.
Oh, cool. Then...
So, I've rewritten a DBGP client, which could also be your IDE, but of course IDEs haven't implemented this yet.
Yeah.
And you can set up a cloud user ID, and I'll show you what it is at the moment after I actually start it. And of course, this is a live demo that I haven't practiced, so...
It's okay, this is a stream, like, nobody... I mean, you've seen me streaming, right? I make the most mistakes, and I have to get chat to write the code for me, so, like, this is absolutely... this is more polished than anything I've ever done, that's fine.
Okay, so this is this daemon, this cloud server that, of course, now runs locally on port 1920 and 1921. I'm changing the port numbers away from 9000.
Woohoo! Everybody cheers!
Now with my client, I can, if I remember what the username is that I actually use. There we go.
Cycle your keys.
Oh, this means nothing. This is not important. It's just local test environment. So what I've done here is I started my client here now. And what it's done, it has immediately connected to the cloud thingy, which runs here. So it says here, use end for direct reference. I have 27 connections remaining. That's just a test for me to work through these things out. So sitting here now, previously what you had to do, Xdebug would have to connect to the client. And doing that, as you say, with Vagrant and Docker and all this kind of stuff is kind of tricky to do. But it doesn't have to do this anymore, because at the moment, it doesn't have to wait for an incoming connection from anywhere, because it's already connected to this cloud daemon thing.
Okay.
Handy. Which means that now if you're on the command line, and I, of course... I can't remember the name.
It's okay. I'll put you on the spot, yeah. It's totally fine.
I have to recompile this. But it just works, Walter.
So while that's... Oh, you compile fast.
Yeah, it's because that machine has 48 cores, that's why.
Yeah, with no graphics card.
And no graphics card. Well, it has one, but I don't use this.
So James has a question while you're doing that.
Yeah.
With the changes like eliminating the IDE key, etc., will the IDE makers be given enough notice so they can implement support as soon as the new Xdebug is out? It's a very formal question, James. I like it.
Yes.
Good answer.
Of course, I have not set up the two branches are not like together.
So the cloud system acts like almost like a proxy. So the client connects to the cloud and the server connects to the cloud, and right. they don't necessarily need to be connected at the same time. So that
yes. So if the client isn't connected and you try to make a connection, then it doesn't make a connection, just like your IDE wasn't going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm intrigued with this. And then, are you going to be charging people lots of money to use the Xdebug cloud? Is that the Is that the thought?
Well, not lots, but yes. So if you can see now, it's connected and it stopped, right?
Yeah.
If we now go to the client, you see that nothing happened because, of course, it makes sense because it's not running any code.
It's interesting. This anything that makes debugging easier and easier to do.
So now it has connected.
Yeah.
It does debug in, which is actually work better than I would, and it knows it's this cloud user ID, which is what the ID key is going to be replaced with.
That makes perfect sense, right? Mm-hmm. So potentially multiple people on my team could use the same cloud instance?
Well, the intention is that thousands of people can use the same cloud instance. So they don't have to run it for all those people separately.
Nice.
So now we have this script. I mean, it doesn't do anything because I haven't set a breakpoint and stuff like that. And it only just echoes something.
But you can see the frames, right? So that's the interest. Yeah. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but it seems like the right phrase, so it's fine.
Yeah, you can see the stack frames. And then when you disconnect it, the client stays connected.
That's very interesting. That's very, very, very interesting, in fact.
Yeah.
And exciting.
Yeah, so it works in my environment fine with my client as well as the cloud instance. I haven't found any issues with it yet. However, as you mentioned before, that IDEs don't have this implemented yet. And I've been talking to the people that make PHP Storm already, is that they need to start supporting that. But as a stopgap measure, what we can do is I can change my Xdebug proxy that already exists to take over the connection to the cloud instance. And then PHP Storm can just talk to the proxy like it always has done to other DBG proxies, which is something that it supports and other IDs also support. So the IDs wouldn't need to have support for this. But of course, it would be better if they had.
Yeah, it definitely would. That's an interesting question from IconAdString. How does the cloud connections work with offline development? Is there...
I'm not sure. But...
Because the cloud...
No. If it's all offline, if you have no access to, say, AWS, then you can't use this. But that doesn't stop you from Xdebug's normal mode of operation at all. You can still make Xdebug talk to the client directly. You don't have to go through the cloud.
This is an additional mode rather than a replacement of the typical traditional client-server mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like almost like a convenience mode that replaces the traditional mode. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much so. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so anything, and I'm sure you know that getting your IDE to speak to your Xdebug instance to get everything running is never trivial. Like it's always difficult, and it's because it's a complicated thing that needs the connection is hard work, right? And it's got much easier in the I don't know how long. How long have you been working on Xdebug for? 10 years? Longer? Probably longer, right?
18.
Christ alive, that makes me... That not only does that make me feel old, it shows how late it was when I started actually using Xdebug, so that's an embarrassment. But like it used to be even more painful. You used to have to do a rain dance and then like throw some coins to the gods and then hope that it connected. And it's got so much easier now, really now it is as close to trivial as ever going to get, but anything that makes that easier has got to be a big bonus. And I guess it opens up the possibility of third-party products that can, like, sit in the middle in that cloud space.
Potentially, yeah. I haven't really thought about that, but yeah. So one thing I still need to implement for this is that because now everything goes through a cloud instance, you want to have this not going over a standard normal network connection.
Yeah.
You want to have this going over SSL. That's the thing I haven't implemented on the Xdebug side yet.
Well, hello Darren Parker, how are you? Nice to see you.
But I have done that for the proxy and client to cloud instance already. that all runs SSL now.
I'm intrigued. Yeah, we should definitely. I mean, we should definitely get you back on when this is further along, because I think everybody's interested in seeing how this is gonna actually work and how everything's gonna fit together. So, shoot.
So I have done made this work correctly once, in a setup where that would be a trivial setup, having a PHP Xdebug running on a Docker container, Xdebug Cloud running on AWS, or not on AWS, but it doesn't particularly matter where it runs, and PHP Storm as my editor. There, I have posted a video of that some time ago, but I can go look that up again.
No, it's fine. We should definitely take a look at that. I mean, we've got a few more minutes. So was there anything else like PHP 8 wise that you're super excited for? I mean, this is a good question that I can answer, because any question with opinions in it, I have opinions and I'm not afraid to give them. So that's good. So may I ask your opinion on PHP 8? Do you think people will update to it or no? They will stay with PHP 7 for some more time? It's the age-old question, right?
Well, the thing is, going from PHP 5 to PHP 7, that was quite a big jump. But going from 7.4 to 8.0 is pretty much going from 7.3 to 7.4. The only real reason why it is called 8.0 is because of the JIT engine, and that should have no changes to how people use PHP or how people write PHP code.
And for complete idiots like me, what is the JIT engine? Because I mean, I kind of know what it is. I know what it stands for. I'm pretty good with knowing that it stands for like just in time. And I know that this has been attempted before in PHP, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
it had been researched before, yeah. It wasn't the original intention to have PHP 7 do this, but I found so many other optimizations that wasn't necessary. So what the JIT engine does in a few sentences is, like, if you have a bit of PHP code that you run often, although PHP is pretty fast language, and with opcache it removes all the stuff you really don't need. However, PHP's engine still interpreted every bit of code that you write. What the JIT engine does is remove that last step from interpretation to compiling your PHP script directly to run on the CPU without having to go through the PHP interpreter for running the code itself.
And it does that without any kind of user land interaction required, right? The runtime, the executable, whatever you want to call it, just handles that for you, just takes care of it for you. And it does it just in time, obviously. So if it's already been compiled, it'll run the compiled code, and if it hasn't been, well,
it would only even not do that the first time it sees it, but it needs to be hot code.
Yeah.
So it means it needs to have seen it the same part like 10 times or 20 times. I don't know what the exact number is, but something like that.
So lots of people will see improvements right out of the box without really needing to do anything.
Probably not.
No.
Because the only places where this actually makes a lot of sense is if you have a complicated business logic that doesn't really call any other functions, because the moment you call a function that is not JITted, like any of PHP's standard library functions, then it needs to come out of JIT mode again. So it keeps switching back and forward a lot. So I think, although you will see some benefit from this, I think we see that it almost has very little actual impact on how fast code runs, except for specific use cases.
That's intriguing. Yeah, I mean, there's no downside in having this on and enabled and running, right? There's no downside.
There's no downside by having it enabled, but there is a downside by having it, because it does mean that the PHP internals engine gets a lot more complicated.
Yeah, okay.
Also, you might sometimes get bugs that are much harder to reproduce, because you can't just run a PHP script. It needs to be a PHP script that has been run, say, 50 times, so that it has compiled by the JIT engine to run on the CPU, and only then the bug shows.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very valid point. It's a very valid point, I guess. I mean, going back to adoption has always been incredibly difficult in PHP land and in programming in general. I would argue we still see people using Python 2. We still see people using Java 6. We still, this is not a PHP problem.
But it has been getting better on the PHP side.
I think you're right. I agree. It's been getting better. I agree. I think if you were running PHP 7, I think people will upgrade to PHP 8. I just think that there's still a lot of people still running PHP 5, right? Because that was a killer migration for some people. It was very difficult. This 8 doesn't have a lot of breaking changes from 7, from what I can see. There are some, but they're very edge casey, like
as I said, you need to consider it feature-wise as a 7.5 release.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of breaking changes, right?
No.
So I hope adoption will push. I mean, I hope it will, but we can only kind of guess at that because
Well, soon there will be release candidates and alpha releases, and if you want to make sure that everything continues working as it usually does, you run your release candidates and test them.
Yes, absolutely. I try and do that, but I never get around to doing it as much as I want. But then I don't do enough coding these days to be useful as a tester, right? So it's all good. I mean, I think I'm running... I think I was running like a newish version of PHP at least. Beep. I mean, I'm running 7.4.3. That's not so embarrassing as it could be.
7.4.7 comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can do brew upgrade PHP right here. I won't do it on stream. That's fine.
You do need to upgrade XEBook though, because you're running 2.9.2.
And what is the latest version?
2.9.5.
Okay, we could do that too. We can do that. I'm okay with being a couple of point releases behind, but I think you should be upgrading. It's a good question. So we're kind of running out of time here. I booked Derek in for an hour, so thank you so much. I just want to say, next week on Monday, the 1st of June at 2:30, the same time, we have Nuno coming on talking about Pest PHP, which is this new test runner, I guess, or test. It is a wrapper around PHP Unit to make testing more elegant and Laravelly, I guess. I'm interested. I mean, I have been completely honest with Nuno. I will need some persuading, but I have an open mind. I don't have problems with PHP Unit at the moment, but I have an open enough mind to say if I think it's cool, I can have my mind changed, So that should be really cool and interesting. So drop me a follow me on Twitter if you want to find out more. And then the other one we've got booked in is my old friend Chris Harches on Monday the 8th of June at 3:00. That will be interesting, I suspect. Thanks for the follow, Darren. That will be interesting. I don't know how much coding we'll get done and how much arguments we'll get done, but I guess it should be fun if nothing else. So thanks again, Derek. It's amazing for you to come and hang out, and I'm so interested in this stuff. And thank you to everyone. I will be streaming tomorrow morning. I'm going to be writing some code that I need for a demo. Probably the world's least intelligent game engine for playing rock, paper, scissors. And yes, it'll probably just be an array and then picking a random element out of the array. But we're going to do that on stream because it'll be a bit of fun. So that'll be tomorrow morning.
Not rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock?
Rock, paper, scissors, what?
Lizard, Spock.
Lizard, Spock. I don't know what that game is, but I feel like I want to know.
Look it up.
No problem. Thank you for everybody. And about 11 a.m, maybe 11:15 tomorrow morning I'll be streaming. So I'll catch you then. Have a good one.